Everybody wants freedom. Everybody wants freedom. Freedom of thought. Freedom to talk. Everybody wants freedom. Everybody wants freedom. Freedom of speech. Freedom to teach.
Good evening, viewers and listeners, and welcome to another edition of The Rights of the People. I'm Sister Anissa Batiste.
And I am Sister Janelle James, and let us start with a word of prayer. Loving Father, who art in heaven, we bow before you now, and we ask of you please to bless the people with understanding, that they may understand and accept the things that will be said in this program for your honor and glory. Amen.
Amen. And now, let me remind you of how you may contact us at this program. You may send an email. The address is tirlsvg@firstfreedomthink.com. That's tirlsvg@firstfreedomthink.com. Or you may telephone us. The numbers are
528-1015 or 533-0721.
Now, dear viewers, in this evening's program, we're going to take a look at the topic, Sodomites attacking Christianity. And we invite you to view a discussion with one Nyron Medina, an Associate Director of the Thusian Institute for Religious Liberty in Trinidad and Tobago. Take a look at this very important program where he shows how all over the world where laws are passed legislating gay marriage or sodomite marriage, it causes attacks upon the religious liberty of Christians. Take a look.
And what we want to speak about today is the impact sodomite marriages being legislated will have on Christian freedom. Yes, my dear people. You see, sodomites today are getting the aid of the state to attack and destroy Christianity wherever Christianity speaks against sodomy. Yes, my dear people. Using various laws in the state, the aim of the push of sodomites to have legalized marriage, the aim of such is to affect the freedom of Christians. Wherever this has been in the world, whether in Sweden, Norway, Denmark, America, England, or Spain, or whatever country, the effect has always been to attack Christianity. These are the effect of sodomite marriage laws coming in a country. The real issue of sodomite legislation are these points. Point number one, these laws will tell Christians that their speech insults and offends sodomites, so they must stop it. That's one of those things that these laws will say. Your speech offends and insults, so you must stop it. That is what these laws will tell Christians. Point number two, these laws will tell Christians that all must have equal opportunity, so that in the workplace, in Christian institutions, bookshops and health stores and food stores, in Christian institutions, sexual orientation must not be discriminated against, so sodomites must be hired. And so Christianity will be forced to hire sodomites in their workplace against their conscience and against what their mission is all about, simply because of these laws. And point number three, Christianity will be under attack by government and the sodomite people as the religion that are breaking peace laws. These are the things that will happen. They will say, well, you Christians are breaking peace laws, laws that create peace in society, and they will read the riot act for us. These are the effect of laws justifying sodomite marriages. Yes, my dear people. And what we aim to show you in this film is that things like these are already beginning to happen in different parts of the world. Yes, my dear people. Things like these are already happening in many places of the world, in England, in Europe, in Canada, in the United States of America also. Here is an example of England attacking the religious freedoms of Christianity because of sodomy. Look at this clip.
The coronation of Queen Elizabeth. Like British monarchs before her, she promised to maintain the laws of God and the true profession of the gospel. But Britain today is at war with the gospel and with itself. Christians who try to be Christians in the workplace risk being demoted or fired, and the government continues to push an aggressive gay rights agenda, while threatening to criminalize Christian speech and practice. Christian politician and activist George Hargraves.
Yesterday, I got a letter from the Advertising Standards Authority of a complaint saying that my billboard that says Britain is a Christian country is offensive to atheists and other religions, and it incites hatred against them. What nonsense. Britain is constituted as a Christian country. Daily prayers are said in Parliament, whether atheists like it or not. The Queen is the head of the Church of England and therefore has to acknowledge God for her sovereignty over the nation. These things are written into not just our culture and our heritage, but into our Constitution.
Great Britain is officially a Christian nation, and in fact at one time was the missionary base for the entire world, even sending missionaries to the new American colonies. But Britain today in practice is increasingly anti-Christian, and the cases of anti-Christian bigotry and discrimination are beginning to pile up. In response, Christian legal centers have mobilized. Lawyer Andrea Minicello-Williams of Christian Concern for Our Nation warns that if British Christians don't step up now, Britain is on a path to criminalize the practice of Christianity in public.
There's been a massive move by the secularist lobby to privatise religion. You can have faith so long as it doesn't affect you in the workplace, so long as you don't bring it into the workplace. Just make it private. It can't be public. It can't affect what you do in the public square.
Christian Kwabena Pete was forced to attend homosexual sensitivity training at work, administered by a lesbian.
One of the things that she said was when she asked the question, what makes you all think that to be heterosexual is natural? At which point I walked out.
He then wrote a letter to the sensitivity trainer explaining the Bible's position on homosexuality, and that God loved her and he loved her. He was suspended.
They said that by me telling them about the Word of God, it constituted harassment and intimidation.
Kwabena was just recently reinstated. Cases like Kwabena's are repeated over and over in Britain. Doctors, nurses, adoptive parents, deemed unfit because of their Christian beliefs. Christians are told not to speak about God in the workplace, or they're punished for offending homosexuals or Muslims. Now the British government wants to pass a new equality bill that would force churches to hire practicing homosexuals or transsexuals. Christian lawyer Paul Diamond has been very successful in fighting Christian discrimination cases in the courts.
In the United Kingdom, the homosexual agenda is militant, and they've been arresting Christians, jailing Christians for hate crimes, shutting off grants, constant litigation with the government, constant aggression. There's no live and let live. Your Christian values are wicked and evil, and that's what they want everybody to believe.
And during our interviews with Minicello-Williams and Diamond, they both offered the same warning to American Christians, that any anti-life or hate crimes legislation under the Obama administration will erode America's Christian base.
This is all coming to America if you liberalise the laws, as President Obama has done.
Do you know who Obama reminds every British person of? Tony Blair. Charming, persuasive, convincing, appearance of moderation, and then shoved all the Judeo-Christian values down, saying he was a Christian as he did it. So we know what's going to happen in America. We know what's going to happen to your 40% church attendance. It isn't 40%, it's going to be 20%. When the federal and state government starts saying, if you criticize homosexuality, the hate crime laws will apply to you Christians.
By some estimates, it only took about 10 years to almost completely undermine Britain's Christian heritage. Barring a sudden move of God, it's likely to take far longer to restore it.
Here is yet another example where using the Bible is identified as an offense against Sodomites. And again, this is in England.
Jamie Murray says police threatened to arrest him for playing a Bible DVD in his cafe because it violated a law against insulting speech. Police came to the Salt and Light Coffee House here in Blackpool after a complaint about insulting and homophobic material. The complaint centered around Bible text displayed on a TV screen in the back of the cafe. A DVD plays the entire New Testament on a loop. Murray says he was stunned by the way the police treated him as a criminal simply for displaying the scriptures.
Yeah, it was quite shocking. It was quite unusual to think you might be breaking the law by playing the Bible.
Police have since backed off, giving Murray a partial apology and saying the officer was wrong to tell him displaying Bible verses is a breach of public order laws. Lancashire Police issued this statement. The officer discussed the matter with the cafe owner, and at no point was he asked to remove any materials or arrested. It appears that the officer has misinterpreted the Public Order Act, and we have apologized to the cafe owner for any distress we may have caused. Still, Murray is angry that the investigation ever occurred.
Well, I think it's something that's we thought would happen in communist countries and certain dictatorships, and I think, you know, before it gets anything like that stage, we need to defend the freedom to preach the Bible, really.
Civil rights groups in the UK say the case is a perfect example of how hate speech laws can be misinterpreted and misused to restrict free speech. The Christian Institute is calling for the word insulting to be removed from the Public Order Act, a proposal supported by the National Secular Society's Keith Porteous Wood.
I think that the case of the cafe owner displaying the Bible, exciting the police's involvement, illustrates probably more than any other before how stupid the interpretation of the law is becoming. And I think we need, therefore, to look at the law itself. And we agree in this instance with the Christian Institute that the word insulting needs to be taken out of the law.
The Christian Institute's Mike Judge says Christians in particular are vulnerable to this kind of legislation.
Once these laws are in place, then you get campaign groups putting a lot of pressure on the police to be seen to be enforcing them. And that's why Christians who are simply expressing their beliefs end up getting arrested and even investigated by the police simply for expressing biblical truth.
Despite the partial apology, Murray is expected to lodge a formal complaint with the police.
It's important that he lodges an official complaint with the police and that these matters are put on record. We'll be looking for a full and frank and unreserved apology from the police for investigating Mr. Murray. This case is about being able to publicly display the Bible without the police coming along and telling you that you can't. It's that important.
In the United States of America, the land of the so-called free and the brave, here is an example of Sodomites attacking the rights and freedoms of Christians. Take a look at this clip.
But there is a movement afoot targeting your children and your grandchildren to undermine the moral foundation of America. Bit by bit, the radical homosexual agenda is advancing, dulling our sense of righteousness and undermining the American family.
As you're about to see, the moral iceberg is ripping a hole in the structure of America, and we're taking on water. Can we repair the damage before it's too late?
The homosexual agenda is the moral iceberg that we need to steer clear of.
This is one of those icebergs that if we don't navigate around them correctly, will take us under.
Many people think we're able to endure it, just like the Titanic thought that it could handle the icebergs.
But in point of fact, we've already hit the iceberg, and the ship is already going down.
And we're taking on water. The only question is whether or not we're going to be able to survive and the ship won't sink.
This is the biggest threat, I believe, in our lifetime to religious freedom and the fundamental values that we share here in America. Anything that opposes the affirmation of the homosexual and transsexual lifestyle ultimately is going to be criminalized and targeted for assault.
Our freedoms of religion, freedoms of conscience get taken away, our ability to adequately train and teach our children gets taken away, and even the very meaning of marriage gets further destroyed and decayed. So this matters to all of us, and if we think it doesn't matter, we are deceiving ourselves.
There's just a couple steps before the military could be used in a persecution of those that are viewed as enemies of the new state belief system.
You see, my dear people, this is happening all over the world. Listen to this. What is happening in the United States of America can happen right here in Trinidad and Tobago if sodomite marriage laws are enacted. Here is this example in the United States of America. Observe the clip.
A high school student in Texas was punished for opposing homosexuality. Dakota Airy told a classmate he believed being homosexual was wrong. The teacher in his German class overheard the exchange and sent him to the principal's office. Dakota was then suspended, even though he had a spotless record, is an honor student, a member of his high school football team, and active in his church youth group. Dakota's mother contacted the Liberty Council. After meeting with the school, Dakota's suspension was revoked. Students say the teacher has brought up the topic of homosexuality in the classroom numerous times.
Well, the case of Dakota Airy may sound extreme, but it's just the latest example of an ongoing effort to conform America's young minds to a liberal worldview. Former Reagan White House writer Mary Beth Hicks says political correctness from schools to pop culture is misleading your kids. Mark Martin has more.
Today's parents must be brave parents to protect their kids from being misled by the media, educators, and their peers. That's the warning from author and columnist Mary Beth Hicks. In her new book, Don't Let the Kids Drink the Kool-Aid, confronting the left's assault on our families, faith, and freedom, she sounds the alarm on the views of the next generation.
So not only is the left undermining what we're trying to teach our children about family, faith, and freedom, but they're filling them up instead with all kinds of messages about the gay culture, the gay agenda, sexuality education, eco-radicalism in our classrooms, and earth worship.
Hicks reports that frightening percentages of our children believe that socialism is better than the free market. Christianity is judgmental, America is the villain of world history, and family does not mean marriage.
On the one hand, they're working very hard to undermine what traditionally our children know as family, faith, and freedom. So they're not teaching kids about civics. They're redefining what it means to be a family for our children's generation, and really undermining all the ways in which we'd like to teach our children about God and about our faith.
She says parents must work to reset their children's moral compass so they have the strong character and values needed to lead our nation into the future. If not, she says, we'll soon wake up in a very different America, a far cry from the land of the free.
We don't have a strong voice in education, or worse yet, in teacher colleges and the colleges of education across the country, which are some of the most radically liberal places in the academy. We're not there. We're not really in media with a strong enough voice, other than, God bless you, here you are. And we're not in pop culture the way our kids experience pop culture. So without a presence in the places where our children experience the world and form their ideas, we don't have a way to influence them.
The protection of Sodomites in their unnatural sexual activity comes at the expense of the rights and freedoms of Christians. This is what we want you to see over and over again. It is Christians that will suffer. Pay attention again to this other clip.
Gay rights advocates say gay Americans are denied employment, fired from their jobs, or otherwise discriminated against just because they are gay, and they want federal protection. But many Christians fear this will come at the expense of their religious freedom.
This will affect religious liberty in the workplace. We've seen it at the state and local level where they've already established these policies. Religious speech that is in conflict with sexual, so-called sexual rights, you know, the pursuit of homosexuality, they lose.
ENDA has been introduced in every Congress except one since 1994. But this year, the momentum appears much stronger. The real question for people of faith, just how strong are its religious exemptions? And right now, a number of loopholes exist.
We're aware of it. We know that it's out there.
Scotty Velvin has owned a Christian bookstore for 20 years and fears ENDA could eventually affect the publishers she buys from and the employees she hires. Under ENDA's current configuration, Christian retailers are not exempt. That means any Christian business with 15 or more employees would have to comply. And that could mean hiring workers who don't believe in traditional biblical views of sexuality.
A law that would require an organization to retain employees, for example, who don't fulfill that organization's mission is a dangerous law. It's like requiring an environmental group to fill up its board of directors with lumberjacks, or requiring a Democratic senator to hire a bunch of Republican staffers.
Also at risk, Christian parachurch organizations like the humanitarian group World Vision. It has spent years in court defending its religious status, and it may have to again under the religious exemption language found in ENDA. Nimitz and other conservatives also believe ENDA will impede public schools. The special protections for gay and transgendered teachers will make it extremely difficult for districts that might want to remove them from the classroom.
The ability of schools and school districts and principals to make sure that there are proper educators and influences for the children under them is going to be much more difficult.
Religious freedom advocates say ENDA's religious exemption language could and should be strengthened.
It would be really good to have language in ENDA that says that this is a bill that's intended to protect certain employees, but not at the expense of religious freedom.
And many are wondering what's next. First hate crimes, then ENDA, then same-sex marriage? That's already been the pattern in Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine.
We know that this president and the leadership of this Congress have advocated for the repeal of federal DOMA, so redefining marriage at the federal level definitely could be the next step.
For now, Christian employees and employers are hoping Congress will not just protect sexual freedom, but constitutionally mandated religious freedom as well.
Yes, my dear people, even the social media on the internet are now discriminating against Christians, against the free speech of Christians in honor of sodomy. Even the social media is doing this. Christianity is under attack by sodomy using various institutions all over the world. Observe what this clip shows us.
The new media platforms of our world, Facebook, Google, Apple, MySpace, all promise a world of much more speech and more democratized. But the National Religious Broadcasters Association warns these platforms could well be the new anti-religious censors of our day. It studied the biggest and says only Twitter hasn't shut up Christians.
It was actually a pattern of anti-Christian censorship that's already occurred among several of them. And then when we looked farther, looked at their written policies, we found out that every one of them, except for Twitter again, they get an A+ from us. The rest of them get failing grades.
Colby May of the American Center for Law and Justice joined with Craig Parshall and others to study the new media platforms for the last year and a half.
There is, in fact, a kind of viewpoint censorship that's going on, and we need to go ahead and stand up and say, stop, not here, don't do it, wrong way, turn around now.
What's getting censored?
Right now it's on the issue of the gay rights agenda.
Apple's App Store has only bumped off 2 apps, and both were from Christian groups that oppose the gay rights agenda.
And you have to ask yourself, well, why just these 2 viewpoints of the hundreds of thousands that you have? And when you get the explanation is, well, some people were ruffled, they felt they were offended by it.
Parshall complains the companies behind these platforms give them
the authority to strip content off whenever other users, for any reason, decide that they don't like the opinions of other users.
Then you're thinking, wait just a minute, we've crossed over into this netherworld of offense is now the justification upon which the rights we have as Americans to fully engage the culture and to debate all issues is going to be decided.
These panelists who came to Washington to discuss the new NRB study urged the Googles, Apples, and Facebooks of the world to instead use the First Amendment as a guide, unfettered free speech.
More speech is better than less speech. Open and robust debate and contending for the things that matter is essential.
Everyone's viewpoint ought to be allowed on these new media platforms.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Yes, my dear people, you see, even though your member of parliament will state very strongly to you that the laws to legalize sodomite marriages will not be crafted in such a way as to interfere with the religious freedom of yourself, your children, and your religions, even though they may promise you this, you must not believe them. Why? For this is what the representatives said in those countries where Christianity is now being directly attacked through sodomite languages. They said the same thing too, and now Christianity is being attacked in those same countries. So you are not to believe your member of parliament when they say that. You see, sodomite marriage laws cannot do otherwise but attack Christianity, as we have already seen taking place all over the world. The nature of sodomite laws are to attack Christianity. Once you craft them, once you structure them to get them to pass, they will attack Christianity. That's how they are by nature. Yes, my dear people, this is the reason why you must call upon your government representatives not to sustain or not to represent sodomite laws passing in your country. May God bless you as you make efforts to do such a thing like this.
Yes, my dear viewers, you have seen in the program evidence of the fact that Christians around the world are being persecuted for simply exercising their religious liberty. This happens whenever sodomite laws are passed by governments, or laws to legislate sodomite or gay marriage, as they call it. This happens because that is the nature of such laws. They are always anti-freedom and anti-rights. This is why in certain countries of the world you have laws such as what they call hate crime and hate speech laws, which have the effect of causing the simple speech of preaching the gospel and telling these sodomites what is wrong with what they're doing according to the scriptures. It makes that a crime just to preach what the Bible says to these people. And this is not right, because one right, any legitimate right, should not infringe and does not infringe upon the rights of others. And this is why we know to be gay is not a right, because once it is exclusive to a special group, it is not a right, because right is always equality under law. And this is why we are bringing this program to you, to show you and explain to you the danger to society when government passes laws to legalize gay marriage. It always interferes with the religious liberty of Christians and others who hold a view that sodomy is wrong and sinful in the eyes of God, and this ought not to be so.
And so I take this opportunity to remind you of the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights of the United States of America, which says, Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. And for governments to legislate laws allowing sodomy, it means that they are legislating the view of a certain group or a specific sect. And that is not the role of government, because to legislate laws that favor sodomy, it means that the religious liberty of Christians, or the religious liberty of other persons for that matter, will be put at risk. And the role of government is to make laws that facilitate freedom of speech and freedom of expression for all persons. And so government should ensure that the laws that are in place would allow persons to be critical of any opinion or be critical of any view, as long as the critics are not violent in their criticisms. And so we here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I would like to encourage us, to consider seriously the fact that government has a very serious role in ensuring that the religious liberty of everyone is preserved, so we will be free to criticize behaviors that are anti-God, like sodomy, for example.
Thank you for viewing another edition of The Rights of the People, which is brought to you every second, third, and fourth Friday of the month by the Thusian Institute for Religious Liberty. Let us remind you of how you may contact us if you would like a copy of this program.
You may write to us at TIRLSVG@firstfreedomthink.com, or you may telephone us at 528-1015 or 533-0721.
Until our next program, may God bless you, and may you continue to stand for your religious liberty, which is inalienable or God-given.
Everybody wants freedom. Everybody wants freedom. Freedom of thought. Freedom to talk. Everybody wants freedom. Everybody wants freedom. Freedom of speech. Freedom to teach.